Test 1, 2. There it is. Okay, good. Okay, all right, we're good. If you want to, just, yeah. So I'll see you and stand by, okay? I guess so. I guess that's what's so. Okay, sorry, and let's see. We'll be getting started shortly. Stand by.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We apologize for the delay, technical difficulties. Welcome. My name is Claire Van Blaricum, and I'm the Voter Service Co-Chair for the League of Women Voters of Santa Barbara. I will be the moderator for tonight's forum. This forum for candidates for California Assembly 37th District is being sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Santa Barbara, together with our co-sponsors, the Santa Barbara Goleta Valley branch of AAUW, and the League of Women Voters of North Santa Barbara County. We're coming to you from the studio of TVSB, TV Santa Barbara, live streaming on the League of Women Voters of Santa Barbara Facebook page and on the League of Women Voters Santa Barbara YouTube channel. Thank you to TVSB for their technical expertise in bringing this virtual forum to you. The forum will be recorded and available on our YouTube channel via a link on the League of Women Voters of Santa Barbara website, lwvsantabarbara.org, in both English and Spanish. Thank you to Silvia Uribe of TransilPro, who will be providing the Spanish translation. We hope this forum will inform you, the voters, of the candidates' views on issues of interest to you. Note that the League neither supports nor opposes any candidates or political parties. In case I forget to remind you at the end, we have a critical primary election coming up June 2nd. You can check to make sure that your voter registration is up to date, your address is correct, you are registered in the correct political party that you want to be part of, by going to voterstatus.sos.ca.gov. That SOS is Secretary of State. If it needs to be updated, you can re-register to vote at registertovote.ca.gov and do it online. All registered voters in California will receive a mail-in ballot in the mail. Be sure to register by the May 18th deadline so that you receive your ballot packet in the mail. Please remember to vote. All of you are welcome to join the League and to make a tax-deductible donation in order to finance voter education programs such as this. Go to our Santa Barbara League of Women Voters website at lwvsantabarbara.org in order to do that. Our annual dues are a pay-what-you-can basis with a minimum of $20. Both candidates for State Assembly representing the 37th District are here with us this evening by Zoom, Greg Hart and Sara Dominguez. Thank you both for attending and for running for office. Here's how the forum will work. We use the traditional League of Women Voters process and ground rules, which both candidates have agreed to follow. To maintain civility and the issue-oriented nature of the forum, we do not allow candidates to make negative comments about other candidates' character or qualifications, but rather we ask them to address their own qualifications and vision for office and their views on issues facing California and the 37th District. We remind you again that this is not a debate, but rather a forum to allow candidates to put forth their views and qualifications. First, each candidate will make a brief opening statement of up to 4 minutes. I will then ask them questions that have been developed by our voter service team, giving each candidate a maximum of 2 minutes to answer. We will alternate the order of responses. The candidates will answer as many questions as possible in the time remaining. And candidates, please note we have plenty of questions, so it is not at all unwelcome to be very brief in your answer or even to agree with your opponent. At the end, each candidate will have an opportunity to make a closing statement of 2 minutes. Let's get started. Ready for opening statements? Mr. Hart, your 4-minute opening statement, please.
Thank you, and good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's forum, and to all of you for tuning in and being engaged in our democracy. Since December of 2022, it has been my distinct honor to represent Santa Barbara and southern San Luis Obispo counties in the California State Assembly. We are all very fortunate to call the Central Coast home. For many, this place has been home for generations. For others, it's a place chosen more recently. With the many benefits we enjoy on the Central Coast comes responsibility. Responsibility to care for our community, support one another, and safeguard our natural resources. Those values were instilled in me early. My mother worked in our schools, and my father led the public libraries in Santa Barbara County. My parents taught me that strong communities are built through service. My path has always been rooted in that idea. I began my career as a staff member in the very office I now hold. Along the way, I started a child care center, worked to advance clean transportation solutions, and served as a city council member and county supervisor. In every role, my focus has been the same: improving the quality of life for our community and now for all Californians. As your assembly member, I passed 19 bills that were signed into law by Governor Newsom, each shaped by the needs of the Central Coast. When Californians were paying more at the gas pump because oil companies failed to properly plan for refinery maintenance and outages, I worked with Governor Newsom to hold those oil companies accountable. As the president trampled on California's environmental laws to make money for his billionaire friends, I passed a law reasserting California's authority to protect our coastline. And when students in northern Santa Barbara County lacked access to bachelor degree programs, I introduced legislation that successfully brought new degree programs to Santa Maria. These are not just policies that exist on paper, they are real results for our community. Beyond my own legislation, I've worked with colleagues to advance critical priorities. I proudly co-authored Proposition 50, fighting back against the president's power grab at Jerryman. I provided emergency funding to the California Attorney General to defend the civil rights of Californians in court. I have fought back against unlawful cuts to the safety net, including programs for infants, working parents, and seniors. In my district offices, we've helped return hundreds of thousands of dollars to local residents. We've assisted veterans, supported small businesses, and cut through red tape to help families when they needed it most. I'm proud of what we've accomplished together, but there's more work to do. I understand the challenges facing Central Coast families: rising housing, grocery, and utility costs, the stress of living one unexpected expense away from hardship, and the ongoing fight for dignity and opportunity among our immigrant communities. I recognize the potential of California's public education system, and I also know that we must reinvent it to prepare our kids for the future that they will inherit. California's economy is one of the largest in the world, driven by innovation and hard work, but that success must be shared. I'll continue fighting to ensure that everyone who works hard can afford to live here, raise a family here, and build a secure future here. I'm proud to have the support of organizations like Planned Parenthood, the Sierra Club, and the Democratic Party, along with our nurses, firefighters, school employees, and highway patrol officers. And I would be honored to earn your vote to continue this work. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dominguez, your 4 minutes. No, I keep telling her, I think she's muted. Ms. Dominguez, we'll start over. We were unable to hear you. Are you there now?
I'm going to turn this off. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Can you hear me fine? I can't hear you, Claire.
Oh.
Oh, now I can. Okay. Would you like me to start?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I do want to thank the League of Women's Voters for putting together this forum. My name is Sari Dominguez, and I'm running for State Assembly 37, which includes all of the cities in Santa Barbara County and Nipomo, that's part of San Luis Obispo County. My ties to District 37 run deep. I was born and raised in Santa Maria, and my parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents were all born in this region, like Nipomo, Guadalupe, Ballard, and Santa Barbara. This rich heritage has instilled in me a profound appreciation for the diversity and vibrancy of District 37. My mother taught me that strong families build strong communities, and that is my main platform for why I'm running. During my 30-year career in government as a public servant, I worked at Santa Maria Bonita School District, Santa Barbara County, and Monterey County. I built a reputation as a public servant and as a skilled problem solver and leader. I played a key role in implementing and managing complex database systems, providing critical operation support, configuring and analyzing data, producing detailed reports, and identifying and resolving system errors with precision. My strong analytic and abstract reasoning abilities enable me to quickly diagnose problems and deliver practical solutions. These are skills that are essential to an effective leadership in government. While being married, raising 3 sons, and excelling at my professional life, I furthered my education. I have 2 associate's degrees, AS in Information Technology and an AA in Liberal Arts, both of them from Allen Hancock College. I then achieved my bachelor's, which is a BS in Business Management, from the University of La Verne, which was a pilot program at Vandenberg. That was Vandenberg Air Force Base, which is now Space Force Base. I also achieved a master's degree, an MA in Organizational Leadership from Chapman University, and that again was a satellite program here in Santa Maria. Organizational leadership was centered on the principle of servant leadership, a philosophy that I wholeheartedly embrace. District 37 is a special place. Too many families are struggling to stay here. The cost of living is too high. Housing is out of reach and too many regulations. We have homeless, drug, and gang problems. Many of our public schools have poor test scores, and people feel like decisions are being made far from our community. We can do better. I bring a practical, solution-focused approach grounded in real-world experience. I will fight for affordability, public safety, better schools, accountability, and morality, and make sure our district is heard in Sacramento. I have a deep desire to recreate the safe and lively atmosphere that my youth that played a part of and play a part in restoring California reasonable governance. We need solutions that actually work for District 37. A one-size-fits-all mandates doesn't work.
Your time is up.
I'm running. Okay.
Ms. Ugu, thank you. Our first few questions deal with priorities, and we will begin with Ms. Dominguez. What do you believe is the most important issue facing the state of California at this time?
Well, I think there's many issues that we're facing that need a priority. But the one that comes to the forefront is our cost of living here in California. We have too high prices of homes. Our taxes are outrageous. Gas prices are way too high. We also have our utilities and other things are just way too high here to live in California. And we've had many thousands of people leave California, and because of that, because it was too expensive. I've also had family members leave because of that, but I plan to stay because I want to fight for California. I want to make it affordable again, and I think I can do that at the legislation.
Thank you. Mr. Hart, same question.
Yeah, I agree that the cost of living in California is the most pressing issue, but equally important is whether government can really deliver results that people expect at a scale that will make a difference on those challenges. We've set ambitious goals, both on housing and on climate, homelessness and affordability, and I think there's the right goals. We're on the right track. But too often the results aren't matching the urgency that people feel in their daily lives. And there's a big gap between what we promise and what people actually experience. And that's the real challenge. You see it in housing, where we know we need more housing supply, but projects still take too long and cost too much to build. You see it in homelessness. We've made major investments, but still too many people are living on the streets. And you see it in climate policy, where we're leading the nation, but families are also dealing with higher costs and rising insurance rate tied to real risks from climate change. So the issue isn't just what we're trying to do, it's how effectively we're doing it. And as the chair of the Assembly Accountability and Transparency Committee, I've focused on accountability and implementation, making sure programs are measured by outcomes, not intentions, streamlining process so we can move faster, and being willing to fix or change things when they're not working. Because Californians are not asking for perfection, they're asking for progress that they can actually see and feel. If we can close that gap between ambition and execution, we can make real headway on affordability, housing, and climate all at once. And that's really our gift to the state of California and the world, the ability to have a growing economy while protecting our climate and protecting consumers at the same time. That's the most pressing issue facing California, and it's where I've focused my work.
Thank you. The next question will be answered first by Mr. Hart. What do you believe is the most pressing issue specifically for the 37th District?
Yeah, as I said before, Santa Barbara County is one of the most expensive places to live in the country, and people feel that pressure every single day. When housing costs are this high, it affects everything. Families are stretched thin, trying to make ends meet. Young people who grew up here are being forced to leave, and employers, from our schools to our hospitals to our small businesses, are struggling to find and retain the workforce they depend on. You can see it in longer commutes, in staffing shortages, and in the growing gap between where people work and where they can afford to live. Over time, that erodes the strength of the entire community because it pulls us apart. That's why I've made this a top priority. We need to build more housing, especially workforce housing and affordable housing, in a way that respects the character of our cities and neighborhoods. That means focusing growth in the right places, near jobs and transportation, and making sure that infrastructure keeps pace. It also means streamlining approvals so good projects don't get stuck for years in a process that drives up costs and limits supplies. But just building more isn't enough. We have to build the right kind of housing, housing that teachers, nurses, farm workers, service workers, and young families can actually afford. If we don't do that, we won't solve the problem. We'll just be building second homes for people from out of the community. At the same time, the cost of living here goes well beyond housing. Insurance rates are rising in large part because of wildfire risk. Utility bills are unpredictable. Grocery, gas, and basic expenses are also climbing. We need a comprehensive approach, investing in wildfire prevention to stabilize insurance rates, strengthening oversight of utilities, and making sure families aren't bearing the cost of inefficiency or lack of accountability. This is also about homelessness. If we're honest about it, housing affordability is one of the root causes.
Mr.
If we
Hart,
don't
your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
The next question, we will begin, Ms. Dominguez, would you answer that same question, please? What do you believe is the most pressing issue specifically for the 37th District?
Yes. I have to agree with what Mr. Hart is talking about. Can you hear me? I'm not showing up on the screen. Good. I do agree. Everything he's saying are things that I'm seeing and experiencing. So the question is, why aren't things changing and getting better? Why aren't things being implemented? There are root causes to a lot of these things. And he's right. It's how we plan, what we find is blocking our moving forward, what's causing all the cost. One of the things I find that our government does is it subsidizes and pays for a lot of things for people. And we need to be very careful on how much we do this. I think people want to earn a fair wage and be able to afford things. So we need prices to come down and maybe even have cost of living go up so that we can start living within reason. He talked about wildfires. I have a son who's 25 years in the forestry. And I remember he came to me about 15 years ago. He was concerned because on their off season, they would clear brush. They would prepare so that if they had wildfires near places that they would be able to control it better. And they stopped it. So, and not only the federal, but the state. And that was devastating. And we've seen the results. So I'm hoping that they do start picking that up because I think it's very important, especially with people expanding their homes and living spaces near our forestries. Gas. Yeah, I cannot believe how expensive gas is. And I know the last time I had a forum with Greg Hart, he talked about a bill that he passed with Newsom that was going to have oil fields keep oil supply so that prices won't go up. Well, I was watching the gas prices and they've gone up.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, we will begin with Ms. Dominguez. How do you plan to balance your responsibilities to the state as a whole with your responsibilities to the 37th District specifically?
I'm very for responsibility. I've always counted myself as responsible, common sense, morality, having morality. Those are my values. So I am very responsible. I'm very hardworking. And I would love more than anything to be able to be up at the state level and having that responsibility to help our state, help our District 37 become vibrant again, like it was when I grew up and when I was young and married. So being responsible, I have no problem. I was responsible for a multi-million-dollar database system and having payroll out every 2 weeks, fixing any issues and problems, and making sure I was organized enough and knowledgeable enough to be able to perform at my maximum. I will do the same up at the state legislation as an assemblywoman.
Mr. Hart, same question, please.
Yeah, I really appreciate that question. I think that's exactly the issue. Try to find the balance so that we can actually make progress. You know, the state has the responsibility to set clear goals, ensure fairness, and provide the resources to meet our biggest challenges, whether it's housing, climate, or public safety. And at the same time, local governments know their communities best, and they should have a real voice in how these goals are implemented. For me, it starts with roles. The state should set the what, for example, how much housing we need or the standards we expect for safety and environmental protection. Local government should shape the how, where that housing goes, how it fits into the community, and how projects are designed. Where we've gotten in trouble in California is when that balance breaks down. Either the state sets goals without enough flexibility, or local processes become so slow and restrictive that nothing gets built and the problem gets worse. The answer is partnership and accountability. The state needs to streamline the rules, align incentives, and fund infrastructure so local governments can succeed. And local governments need to step up and deliver results, whether that's approving housing, reducing risk, or implementing programs effectively. I've worked really hard to strike that balance and work in collaboration with my local government partners, supporting local planning while also making sure that we meet the needs of the state of California. That's the work I'm going to continue to do, and I'm proud of the partnerships that I've developed with our local government partners, non-governmental organizations, and business organizations in the district to help improve the lives of all the members of the 37th Assembly District.
Thank you. The next question, we will begin with Mr. Hart. Do you think that the current state tax system is fair and adequate? What, if any, tax cuts or tax increases for voter approval would you support?
The California tax system is extremely progressive, which is great because people who benefit more from the services in California pay more. But it is also very unstable because it relies heavily on the highest income earners in the state of California. People that make very large incomes pay income taxes, and their income is often dependent on capital gains rather than salary and regular income. So the volatility of our tax revenue is tremendous and changes dramatically from year to year based on the performance of the stock market and the capital gains that those wealthy individuals realize. It makes it extremely difficult to do budgeting because we don't really know what next year's revenue are going to be. And the state of California has a very large budget. We are the fourth largest economy in the world. We have a budget of about $350 billion. One of the biggest challenges for us on a fiscal standpoint is that California taxpayers send $83 billion a year to the federal government that we do not get back in services. We are one of only 3 states in the country that subsidize the rest of the country. In fact, that $83 billion is equal to the full state budgets of 11 other states. And many of those states don't even have income tax at the state level. So California taxpayers, through our federal government system, are paying the state budget in those states. It's inequitable, it's unfair. It's a product of the fact that California only has 2 senators, and so does Montana and other very small states. It's one thing for us to shoulder that burden and contribute to the national economy in the way that we do when we are in partnership with the federal government. But now that we're being attacked by the federal government and even things as basic as disaster assistance,
your time is up.
Risk, it makes it very
Your
difficult.
time is up. Your time is up. Thank you. Ms. Dominguez, same question, please.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Do you think that the current state tax system is fair and adequate? What, if any, tax cuts or tax increases that would go for voter approval would you support?
I don't think it's very equitable. We I would cut taxes more than add more taxes, because it seems like we keep finding ways to tax us, to tax the people to get enough money to pay for all the things the state needs to pay for. And talking about budget, the state budget, we're having $1 billion, we're billions of dollars in debt. But every year we say, oh, our budget is fine. Well, I know how to budget. And when you don't have enough revenue coming in, then you figure out what the priorities are to cut. You don't have to cut everything. You just prioritize what needs to be cut and where your money's going. And also watch where your money's going and make sure it's being spent where you expect it to be spent and you're getting results. So I think the California can do a lot better on their budget. And if we had more businesses back into our state and people working, we would create more revenue in that respect, because California has so many resources that we can actually create a revenue. And I'd rather get revenue in that respect than trying to keep putting taxes on the people.
What can the legislature do to encourage innovation and create jobs and vibrant communities?
California is the
No,
economic.
we're starting with Ms. Dominguez.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Yeah, innovation. You know, I started back at the late 80 in 88 with computers when it was just mainframe, and I was a person that would put them on the desk. I would run wire to connect them and work with the server. So I have always been my whole life looking at change and understanding the changes of innovation. I think innovation is one of our strengths as Americans. And California has always been the lead of innovation. And we should be teaching these children in our schools, especially that have those kinds of talents, to learn the innovation. So I'm really for it. I am anxious to look at what we're doing. I know AI is now a big issue, but we really need to be careful. We need to understand AI. We need to stay on top of AI to make sure it's doing things positive for us and not harming anybody, because it does have two sides to it. So I would be very happy to look at all the different innovations and make California come to the forefront of new ideas.
California is the economic leader of the nation and really in the world. We're the fourth largest economy, and our economic success is really driven by two factors. Number one, we embrace diversity. Everyone that's in California has a role to play in economic development and improving the quality of life. And we have the highest and best educational system in the world. It is the envy of every other country in the world. Our UC, CSU, and community college system produces the smartest, brightest researchers in the planet, and the companies that depend upon them are creating our future through innovation and technological development. It's really one of the core strengths that California has, and we have to protect that and make sure that that is always a strength. So making sure that we invest in education at the K through 12 level. We have made significant investments in the TK program so that 4-year-olds now have a way to enter the school system at no cost for their parents, as part of their public education system. And we're working to increase funding for public education at all the grade levels up to community college, to change the systems for educating students in reading and math, and expecting better accountability from our education system. But our community college, CSU, and UC systems are producing Nobel laureates. UCSB has one of the highest level of Nobel laureates in the entire UC system. And all of the top performing companies in California depend upon our graduate students to feed their businesses and create innovation for the world.
For the next question, we'll again begin with Mr. Hart. Recent federal cuts have reduced funding for public health and social services. What should the California legislature do about this issue?
Thank you for highlighting this issue. This is what makes my job extremely difficult every day. You know, as I mentioned previously, government works best when we are partners with the federal, state, and local governments. And at this point in history, we are under attack by our federal partners. The cost cuts that were done by the big horrible bill to social services and healthcare are going to have devastating consequences in our communities. People are going to lose food assistance. Children that depend on having that additional access to food are going to be hungry, and our hospital and medical system is going to be at great risk. And sadly, hospitals will close around the state of California because of the Medicaid cuts that were foisted on us by the Republican Congress. That translates into tremendous reductions in the program here in California. And we had one of the best insurance coverage rates of any state in the country. We're almost up to about 95% of Californians having healthcare coverage insurance-wise of one form or another. This threatens to bring us back 20 years behind where we were, where people now will be forced to go to emergency rooms to get care for problems that would have been small and easily taken care of in their doctor's offices. And now, with no insurance coverage to get access to primary care physicians, they will take those ailments to emergency wards that will cost everybody in the system more money, because the hospitals will have to charge every patient more money to compensate for the fact that Medi-Cal patients do not have coverage. It's a travesty. It's going to make it extremely difficult for us to balance our state budget. It's probably a $20 to $30 billion problem in a $300 billion budget. And we need a better federal partner to make sure that we can protect all of our citizens and provide health care and food assistance to Californians in need.
Ms. Dominguez, the same question, please.
Yes. As far as our federal government, if I was up at the state legislation, I would really try and work with our federal government. We depend on each other, as well as I would work with our counties and our cities. So we all have to work together. We all have a role in what happens. And if we do find things that are deterring something, then you problem solve. You figure out how we can still maintain what we need to maintain. The question is, how much money and how many people do we need to help and give health insurance and give food and give everything, when we really need people to be able to work on their own and find jobs and give them jobs so they can work? I know there are a few people that really do need help, and I do believe in helping people. But there's a difference between helping people and enabling people. And I know the difference. So what we need to do is continue to work with our federal government, find out what things are about. And if we still have responsibility to take care of our citizens, then we need to find a way to take care of our citizens as a state. And also the counties and cities also will need to take care of their citizens. And a lot of this stuff used to be at the city county level, at your local level of taking care of the people. And we've moved it up to the state, and now it's at the federal. Now the federal's cutting it off, if you're saying that. So now we're in a predicament. So there's a lot of problem solving that I think we can do up there. And I'm willing to sit and take a look at it and figure things out on how we can still maintain what we need to maintain.
The next question will begin with Ms. Dominguez. How do you propose to balance state concerns for providing housing with local control over community land use issues? What laws, if any, would you change, or what new laws would you propose?
Well, there are some problems with building houses and with our different land uses and regulations. I know that trying to build something is very difficult and very expensive. And we definitely need to work with our communities to find out, what the root causes of these. There are so many fees for all kinds of things, and you'll pay fees just to even think about building, even if you don't build. So it makes it very difficult. And it is a serious problem. And like I said, I really think we need to build homes. And of course, there's different kinds of homes we build, but we need to be able to make it to where first-time buyers, low-income buyers can actually buy. I know we rent and we have places for them to rent, but really the American dream is to own your own home. That's part of it. And so that's things I would like to see. When you own your own property, it means more to you. And I think we need to be able to bring that back to the state of California.
Thank you. Mr. Hart, same question.
The state of California and the state legislature, in partnership with the governor, has been working diligently to reduce barriers to housing construction, to streamline the regulatory process, and to encourage local governments to step up to the responsibility of actually building housing. And I think, frankly, at this stage, we have done a lot, and it is becoming more and more difficult for local governments to absorb the changes we're making in Sacramento and to implement them effectively. One of the biggest issues that's brought to my attention by my local government partners is the challenge of the builder's remedy projects that happened because local governments were submitting their housing plans to the state, and the state didn't have enough staffing to adequately, in a timely way, adopt those plans and review them, so that the local governments ended up missing the deadlines for completion of those plans. And as a result of that, a window of time was created where builders can propose projects that are outside all local control. And some terrible projects have come through that process. I think that's not a good way to do housing policy. Punishing neighborhoods for the failure of the state bureaucracy to be ready to handle the request from local governments doesn't make sense. And if I had the ability to change this tomorrow, I would change the Builder's Remedy Project to law to adequately respect the fact that we need to be partners with our local government agencies to address this problem, not come fighting with each other.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Mr. Hart. What needs to be done to be sure that we can meet all the water needs of all Californians for potable water, for agriculture, urban uses, environmental concerns? In general, what would be your water policy?
I think, frankly, that the water policies in Santa Barbara County are some of the most innovative and forward-looking that I have seen around the state of California. We have an incredibly widely diverse water supply, from groundwater to reclaimed water to recycled water to desalinated water to connection to the State Water Project, the ability to wheel water from different areas of the state into our area. Tremendous water conservation programs. Our communities have stepped up to that request when needed during droughts. We have really made a conscious decision to not rely on any one particular form of water. And that's critical for the whole state of California as we are entering a new climate era where droughts are going to be more severe and rainfall will be more severe as well. And snowpack will be diminished. We need to make sure that we diversify our supplies around the whole state of California. And I think there's no place better than our own community to demonstrate that that can be done at an affordable price, as long as there's long-term planning and collaboration between the different water agencies. And I think that's what I've been advocating for in Sacramento. And I think that we are slowly recognizing that the state needs to have a wider palette of water solutions than we've had in the past.
Ms. Dominguez, same question, please.
Yeah, I think water is a very critical piece of information, piece what you need. I just need to say one thing. I drive up Highway 5, and there's all these signs about water. And, I've inquired about that to see what's going on. Water is critical for our agriculture and our future. We do live in a very drought environment here on the Central Coast, but we also live where we have snowfall in California here, and we have an ocean right next to us in the Central Coast. We need to invest in storage, desalination, and infrastructure upgrades. But we need to plan for the future, because we know we always get our droughts and we don't know how severe they're going to be. So we need to have plenty of storage to plan. I did go to Diablo Canyon, PG&E, and drank their water, and they said it was desalinated water, and it tasted really great. Maybe that should be our drinking water. So we can reserve the water, our groundwaters, and storage units to feed our farmers and agriculture. I know I've talked with some of the water board people, and we do have some issues with some of our waters. we have a lot of silt building up that we're going to need to have monies to dredge the silt. So there are problems coming up and we need to address them. We need to be preventive. We need to be ready for that next drought. So I am for doing these different things we need to do for the state.
Thank you. For the next question, we'll begin with Ms. Dominguez. What will you do to ensure the opportunity for all eligible citizens to register and vote and to ensure the security of California elections? And also, what is your opinion about states turning over voter rolls to the federal government?
I think voting is one of the most important privileges we have as citizens. And therefore, it should have very careful understanding on when people who registers to making sure they are a citizen, because this is about us being a citizen of the United States. And we should be the ones voting. Of course, our votes and the people we elect will affect all people, even if you're not a citizen, and that's fine. As far as voter rolls, I don't think there should be any secret about these voter rolls. And if government agencies or federal needs to look at them, I'm fine. In fact, I don't think that we're looking at our voter rolls and cleaning them up good enough because, you know, running now, I do have access to some of the voter rolls so I can reach my constituents. And I've been finding that people have moved. People have died when I go to their door. So we really can do a better job at cleaning our voter rolls and making sure we have citizens on them. And if we need the federal to help us, we need local to help us, we need whoever, we need to have clean voter rolls. We need to have secure elections because that is the most important thing as a citizen of the United States, that we have a voice, of being able to voice and have our voice heard by voting.
Same question.
Yeah, I strongly disagree with the federal intrusion on state and local government elections. So the federal government doesn't have a role to play in running elections. This is a state responsibility that is delegated to counties, the county register of voters, and the official folks who work on those elections do a fabulous job. And this issue that there has been, rigged elections is just manufactured propaganda. It doesn't have any basis in fact. There have been so many races that have been looked at very closely to see that the election integrity exists, and the only threat to our democracy is from the Trump administration and their fear that the voters of the country will speak and change who's in elected office, and that they will lose elections, and they're desperate to try and have an opportunity to tilt the elections that are coming up this November for Congress. And it's a tremendous threat. And California is preparing for that threat. The Attorney General, the Governor, the Secretary of State, my colleagues in the legislature who are on the Assembly Elections Committee are all working in collaboration to make sure that California's elections are fair and safe and protected from federal interference. And this is one of the most important things facing our democracy right now, is the erosion of trust in our electoral process, and that can be directly tied back to President Trump and his irresponsible comments about the election in 2020 that he legitimately lost and claims to this day was rigged. And so everyone has a stake in making sure that our democratic process works, and I think we need to make sure that we can protect our elections in California by maintaining our independence from the federal government.
Thank you. For the next question, we'll begin with Mr. Hart. Do you support legislation regarding the use of artificial intelligence? If so, what do you propose?
Yeah, I think artificial intelligence is a huge opportunity that comes with great risk. The technology can revolutionize medicine, customize it to individuals, create new efficiencies that make new products and services that we can't even imagine today. But at the same time, the technology has not been proven and is not, in my judgment, being adequately regulated. The federal government has completely stepped out of that role and is acting as though there are no consequences and just trying to be a cheerleader for those companies. California is trying in its own ways to put some guardrails that are common sense and in some cases even supported by industry. You know, we can't have an artificial intelligence system that can't be checked and can't be controlled. We need to make sure that the people who are developing those on the cutting edge are responsible and behaving in that way and are testing the elements of it before it's deployed in common use. So it's a very important technical subject that many of my colleagues are really deeply examining and trying their best to find the proper balance point between regulation and allowing the industry to be profitable and expand here in California. We have the largest companies in the AI space in California, and they are here because, again, of our education system and the quality of the research and student workforce that's available to them. But it's incumbent on us to make sure that this technology is safe and to also be really aware of the potential for job losses that can come from wide-scale elimination of employment by using technology. And that would have a devastating effect on California families and our workforce.
Ms. Dominguez, same question, please.
Well, I do like, Mr. Hart, what you're talking about with AI, because it is a common sense thought, and we do need to stay in front of it. We need to understand all the things it can do and be very careful of where we go with it. You know, when I started putting computers on desks and I trained people to use the systems, and they were scared they were going to lose their job when these computers came out. Oh, we're not going to have a job. The computers are going to take over. They kept their jobs. They end up starting to do a lot more than they could before. Instead of writing 1 or 2 documents a day that they had to type up, use carbon paper, they now could do 10, 12 different letters and projects. So it actually created where they were able to do more work. And AI is going to be interesting. And what kind of jobs it may take away, we'll have to see, but there's always an array of different jobs as we start creating and looking and changing our environments. Hope to still have a lot of jobs available for people because having a job, I think, is very important. But we do have to watch AI. Like I said, it's got 2 sides to it, and it is a man-made product. So we need to make sure it does right for us and helps us, like Mr. Hart said, and not do harm.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with Ms. Dominguez. What, if anything, should the state legislature do regarding the activities by ICE? What is your opinion about cooperation of state and local law enforcement with ICE?
Well, ICE is a federal law enforcement agency, so they're controlled by our federal government. As far as state, again, I am willing to work with our federal government because the federal government plays a very important role to all our citizens, just like the state plays an important role to our citizens, just like the county does and our cities. So we need to work together. And if ICE is doing things that aren't proper, then those need to be addressed. But I do know that ICE does go after drug dealers. They go after people that are selling people and kids and children, which is very, very much happening in our communities. They also go after illegal immigrations. Now, it came forward because the last administration opened our borders and let millions of people in, and they were not vetting them. And so we have had bad people come in. I'm not saying everyone was bad, and I'm all for immigration. I love the idea that America can bring in people from other countries and help them to be part of America and live our dream. But when you let somebody in that is a killer or has mental health issues or believes in a way to live that does not coincide with our bills, our laws, then we have a problem. And there was a problem created. And ICE, I believe, is trying to do the job they're supposed to. And I I am before law enforcement, and I think our law enforcement agencies need to be able to do their job. But yes, we need to make sure they do it right.
Thank you. Mr. Hart, same question, please.
Yeah, sadly, I think ICE is in their tactics that they're using now has evolved to be really a rogue agency. It is the largest military organization in the country, and the people that have been added to the roles in huge numbers are not being adequately trained to professional standards, and their mission has evolved from what was promised to be going after criminals to be racial profiling and rounding up anybody that they can get to pad numbers to meet the targets that the president has set for deporting people out of the country. And in doing that, we are undermining our economy. We are threatening people's lives who are critical to the functioning of our society. People who are staffing our hospitals, who are working in the fields, who are providing services in stores, are really being terrorized by the immigration strategy that the federal government has employed. And I think all of us have a responsibility to say that that is not acceptable in California. The legislature has tried to push back. We passed a law last year that requires ICE agents to wear masks or to not wear masks in California. We think that is tremendously corrosive to the trust that local law enforcement depends upon. You know, the most effective policing that we can do is to have strong bonds between law enforcement and the community. And when those bonds are broken and that trust is eroded because of federal agents that come in wearing police uniforms and badges and wearing masks and acting as though they're an occupying force, those neighbors of ours have no choice but to hide and to go underground. And it is appalling to me that we have devolved to this place in our country. And as a state legislator, I'm going to do everything I can to protect our neighbors and to make sure that ICE operates in as much of a professional manner as possible. We don't have a lot of tools, sadly, but we have
Mr.
a
Hart,
lot.
your time is up. Thank you. Okay. The next question will begin with Mr. Hart. In light of the Dobbs decision, do you support any changes to California laws regarding reproductive rights?
Yeah, I think that Supreme Court decision was one of the worst decisions in history. I think women have a right to control their own bodies. Access to reproductive health care is a right that every woman in the state of California enjoys and should be protected. And I am a strong supporter of Planned Parenthood and all of the clinics that provide abortion services to California women. Sadly, many women from around the country are forced to come to California to seek care in resolving their pregnancies in the manner that they choose. And I am hopeful that in time, the groundswell of revulsion at the abusive legislation that's happening in states around the country to take away the right for women to control their own bodies will be reversed, and that we will be able to claim federal role and a single standard in the country to allow access to reproductive freedom and abortion for all women. It's a basic right that everyone should enjoy.
Ms. Dominguez, same question.
Yes, abortion. It never was a right before Roe versus Wade came in. And now they've taken it off, saying that no, it shouldn't be a right. I'm a woman, and I've had pregnancies. I know people that have done abortions, my friends and family, and I love them. But I'd like to see people to think this is the 21st century. We shouldn't just be going out and getting pregnant so easy. I mean, really, we have it all figured out, but people do, and then they don't want to have a baby. They need to think twice about their actions. I believe a woman has a right to her body, but she has a right to take care of her body. It is her temple. And I am, as you know, I am pro-life because it's too easy to sit and take a baby's away from you. I believe that conception is, the baby is a person at conception. I know we do have, the people in California voted to have it legal for abortion in California. And I will honor that, our Constitution, that's there. But we really need to think about, how do we have abortions? How many abortions do we have? Do we just flippantly use it as a birth control? Because that's where I'm starting to feel like the line has been stepped over. And that's pretty much what I have to say. What's it mean to be pro-life? I won't take anybody to get an abortion, and I won't talk you into an abortion. Actually, I'm going to talk to you about how you can take care of that baby and have a baby. Because having a child is one of the most beautiful things you can do as a mother, as a father, as a parent. And it's more than just the mother deciding to get rid of it. There's a father that's included. So the father needs to have a say as well.
Your time is up, Ms. Dominguez. Thank you very much. The next question, we will begin with Ms. Dominguez also. Considering amendments to the Mental Health Services Act and the implementation of the CARE Court and the cuts in federal funding for mental health and homeless programs, what is your proposal regarding services for homeless, substance abusers, and the mentally ill in California?
Yes, I think it's very sad and it's a shame that we have people that are homeless. And it is a very complicated issue. There's so many reasons why people become homeless. And really, again, we need to be proactive as far as trying to not let people become homeless. But you know, there are people, that's what they want. And they want to just live anywhere, and they want to live homeless. I know some myself. So how do you help them? They've been 3 times they went through and got themselves straight, and we're so happy and we're so congratulating them. But then, nope, I want to be homeless. That's my choice. So what do we do with someone like that? Again, I believe that when people put a burden on your society, we got to address it, and we can't allow it. So how do we address it? Well, I would love to talk with a lot of people. I have ideas, but I would like to talk to professionals. I don't think we have enough healthcare people and mental health people to help treat all the people that we need. I definitely, we need more, because I think that's one of the important steps for them, is to get care and to get off their drugs. And we need to stop the drugs. And we need these people to feel like they're viable citizens, because they are. And it's more than just giving them a home. There's a lot that we need to do to help them. And I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, I think that mental health services,
question.
the changes to the Mental Health Services Act have great promise. You know, we need to make sure that we provide the services that people need to get off of drugs and alcohol and to address their mental health conditions. But homelessness is really a product of the failure to build housing at an affordable rate. You know, if you look at where homelessness is most acute, it's the places where housing prices are the farthest out of whack. You know, communities used to be able to house people at a lower price level, and folks could stay housed. And sadly, the largest demographic group in California that is finding itself homeless are people over the age of 65, because rents have just gotten too high. So we need a system that keeps people housed so that they don't get onto the street, because what happens in time is the trauma of living on the streets leads to mental health issues that are much more difficult to resolve. So there needs to be a sense of urgency to protect people, keep them housed, and then to quickly get them into supportive housing with services when they do find themselves homeless. And Santa Barbara County has been leading the way in that regard, but by building the tiny village models that Dignity Homes has pioneered. They're very effective, providing privacy and the kind of space that people want to be in, and with the supportive mental health and drug treatment services that people need. And we need more support from the state of California to make sure those programs thrive and expand. But we have created a model that's extremely effective, and we need to do more of it.
Thank you. Our next question, we will begin with Mr. Hart. What is the state's role in responding to increasingly severe wildfires and floods? What do you propose to do to improve emergency responses to such disasters?
Yeah, having an all-year fire season is the new normal in California, and the extreme weather events that we suffer through in Santa Barbara and South San Luis Obispo County really make us understand this issue at a visceral level. This is something that isn't abstract. It's not happening someplace else. It's happening here, and we can see it. The state of California has invested a huge amount of additional funding for wildfire protection and prevention. We've upped the number of firefighters at the state level dramatically, and we're working with local governments through grant programs to reduce the fuel load. The County of Santa Barbara, the fire department, has been the most effective wildfire management agency in Southern California. They've reduced more fuel load than any other county by seeking grants and being very aggressive about that. And there's all kinds of new innovative techniques that are going into that are data-driven in both in prevention and in response to firefighting. There are drones that are being deployed that have tremendous capabilities. The helicopters that are a military surplus that are able to get quickly to an event and put a huge load of water on a small fire, preventing it from becoming a big fire, have really been just game changers locally in preventing disastrous fires. I was on the Board of Supervisors when we funded purchase of a military-grade helicopter that's now in the fire service. And the state of California is looking to expand that program to more jurisdictions so that we can have the benefit of both technology and prevention to really reduce the risk of wildfires. In addition to that, we pushed heavy demands on the utilities to harden their utility transmission lines to make sure that they're not the cause of fires. But there's a lot of more work to be done because the system is incredibly vast and covers a huge part of California.
Thank you. Ms. Dominguez, same question.
Yes. Like I said, I have a son who's part of the forestry, and actually he's on a Hillitech crew. He's a supervisor and has a team. So he's been fighting fires with his helicopter for 25 years. And he's talked to me and has talked about prevention. I think prevention is a very key point here. And if we don't prevent and look forward to what we need to do, it's not just the electrical lines that can cause a fire, but it's people, and it's also lightning. Those are lots of different ways a fire can start. So we got to make sure that we are doing preventive firefighting, and I know we hadn't because we weren't clearing brush and things. So there's a lot of things that you can do to help prevent, and then also get the fires put out. He's also has crews that cut those lines to keep the fire from jumping, and they try to cut a big line so the fires don't jump. And they've saved a lot of communities in his career. So yeah, I think it's very important, especially in California, because since we are a drought state, things get very dry, and we do have bad fires. We can have very bad fires, and then we get the winds. There's so many factors that we've been a fire state for centuries. Even the Indians would backburn because they knew that they could have bad fires. So this is something we definitely have to pay attention to. And I believe being preventive and then also being ready to fight them is very, very important.
Thank you. We have one last question, and we'll begin with Ms. Dominguez. What would be your message to young people and first-time voters about the importance of voting and participating in democracy?
Yes. You young voters, you're our future. You're your future. I'm only going to be here, I don't know how many more years. I'm hoping 20, 30, but you guys have to think about and look above where you're at and look around and see what's happening and understand that freedom isn't free. But voting and registering and using your voice, voting is the #1 way that you can use your voice and make it happen. You do have a say. And you also need to be able, I know you get busy with school and work, and then you have families and everything. I was there. I wasn't paying too much attention, even though I voted. I always voted. But when I finally looked above and started seeing what's going on, what are people doing, I really got an eyeful. And now I see really things happening. And really, it's up to you as a voter and as a citizen. This is your country. This is your state. It's what you want. I'm only going up there to the state assembly to help implement things that you want that's going to make your life easier. I'm not going to sit and dictate what you have to do, what you have to buy, and what you have to pay. And only you can stop that from happening and make yourselves be able to live the American dream. It's going to be up to you. So pay attention, get in there, register to vote, and start voting and paying attention.
Thank you. Mr. Hart, same question.
I think Ms. Dominguez said that very well. I think that was inspiring to young voters, giving them a sense of responsibility and empowerment. You know, that our democracy works when everybody participates and everyone has a voice. And it is essential that young people vote. And their future is at stake. And all of us together are going to decide our future. And I think that the opportunity to vote is something very precious, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. And I know voters that I talk to take time and attention to consider the candidates in elections at every level. And I fully expect that you're going to have a huge upsurge of young voters this election cycle, because I think they're watching what's going on in Washington and around the world and are deeply concerned about the state of our economy, the state of our climate, and really the state of our democracy. And I think it's on their shoulders. All of us have a responsibility, but young voters in particular need to express their opinions and protect their future by voting in the elections coming up.
Thank you. We're now ready for the candidates' closing statements. 2 minutes each, and we'll begin with Mr. Hart.
Well, tonight we discussed many of the most pressing issues facing our state. For many of our families, these issues touch our everyday lives. And I am proud to have the experience, expertise, and relationships needed to continue making progress for our community. I want to close by telling you about one of the favorite parts of my job, my sidewalk office hours. Over the past 3 years, I've held over 100 sidewalk office hour sessions throughout the Central Coast, from Nipomo and Guadalupe to Carpinteria and Summerlin. At these events, I have casual conversations with constituents, hearing directly from them about what keeps them up at night, what they're excited about, and what they're hopeful for. These conversations involve people of all political backgrounds and life experiences, with the shared goal of making our community the best it can be. At this time in our democracy, it's more important than ever for us to engage with each other and find solutions to the common issues we face. We've been able to have such a conversation tonight, and I'm committed to continuing to be a leader for everyone. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, to Ms. Dominguez, and to everyone who's tuned in tonight for the forum. I humbly ask for your vote to continue to work together, support the Central Coast, and build a strong future for California.
Ms. Dominguez, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Hart talks about our democracy. I just want to remind him that we're a republic. So we just use democratic ways of voting. I have been married for almost 52 years. I raised 3 sons and 5 beautiful grandchildren. I have lived the American dream just like my parents and grandparents and great-grandparents did. But it is fading away. I want my grandchildren and your grandchildren, etc., to be able to live that American dream. Because I believe that was why America was formed, and California is part of the United States of America. Grounded in me is my deep love for this community that I was raised in, and I'm committed to restore the safe, vibrant, and opportunity-filled California I once knew. With the discipline and seasoned professional and determination of someone who has generations invested in this region, I make a very formidable candidate, ready to bring a thoughtful leadership and meaningful change. I am standing up to fight for responsible governance, stronger communities, and a better future for District 37 and the state of California. I'm a businesswoman and a longtime resident of this community. Our community has not gotten better. It has gotten worse over time, and we're going to continue to get worse if we still vote for the same California agenda. We need a new agenda. I believe we can bring a more practical, balanced approach, one that focuses on affordability, public safety, better schools, accountability, and morality. I am a common sense, responsible citizen. I respectfully ask for your support. And if you want California and District 37 moving forward towards a stronger growth, real opportunity, and meaningful results, then it's time to choose a new direction that leads with purpose. Vote Sari Dominguez for California State Assembly District 37. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank TV Santa Barbara for the live streaming and the recording of this forum. I want to thank Sylvia Uribe of TransLPro for providing translation services. Our co-sponsors, Santa Barbara Goleta Valley AAW and the League of Women Voters of North Santa Barbara County. Also, thank you to the candidates for participating in our forum this evening. We greatly appreciate your commitment to serving your community. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in to this forum tonight and those who will be watching it later on YouTube. We hope that you found the program informative and useful as you prepare to vote. On Thursday, May 7th, the League of Women Voters of Santa Barbara will be holding a candidate forum for candidates running for supervisor in the 2nd District. It will be held in person at the Goleta Union School District Boardroom at 401 North Fairview Avenue in Goleta, starting at 6 p.m. Please tell your friends who live in the 2nd Supervisorial District about this event. Finally, please make sure that you are correctly registered to vote and vote. Your vote does matter. Mail-in ballots will be mailed out by the county beginning on Monday, May 4th. You can mail them in or drop them off at designated places around the county. Information on where these ballot drop boxes are located will be in the packet of materials that come with your ballot. It will include the addresses of all of the county drop-off boxes. It will also include information on the places where you can vote in person on Election Day if you so choose, and you may take your mail-in ballot into one of those polling places rather than using a drop box or the mail. The League of Women Voters strongly suggests using a ballot drop box to ensure that your ballot is received in a timely manner. If you do choose to mail your ballot, please be sure to mail it at least a week before the election to be sure that it is postmarked by Election Day and received by the County Elections Office within a week of the election. We also suggest taking your ballot into a post office and requesting that it be hand-canceled to ensure that it is postmarked on the day that you mail it. For further information about the election and the candidates for all offices in the state, please visit the League of Women Voters informational website, vote411.org. Thank you very much, and good night.